Welcome to Book Huddle. I'm your host, Karen Reeder with Readgab, and today we have a children's picture book author with us. I'd like to introduce Sasha Saidman. Sasha, tell us about yourself, just you without being a writer, for give us a minute of you.
Um, well, definitely a mom.
Great. How old
Um,
are your kids?
I am a mom to a 1 and a 2-year-old. My son is 2.5, and my daughter is almost 1.5. So we are in the thick of it.
Nice.
I am adopted actually. I
Okay.
have an open adoption. It's fantastic. Couldn't be couldn't be happier with how that happened.
That's cool.
I'm also surprisingly to some dyslexic.
That's interesting.
So having writing as a career path for myself and also enjoying it thoroughly has been surprising
That's neat.
to myself and to others in my
That's
life.
neat.
Yeah, so I'm very artistic, very visual from that, and writing has not come naturally. So it's been a process, but it's a lot of fun figuring it out and kind of creating characters and stories to share with my kids.
That's so excellent. So tell me about that for being dyslexic. I know it's you struggle with reading, so it's you struggle with writing as well.
Yeah, so the spelling and reversing words. So
Okay.
sentences will be flip-flopped where I'll put
Mm,
because somewhere that doesn't belong. I actually am guilty of still texting my dad and saying, does this sound good? And I'll send him an email for him to spell check it before sending it to other people or
nice.
looking it over. And he's so great. And me and him we really have it really down pat.
That's awesome. So, because that's what I was going to say. You just need a good editor is what you need then,
Yep,
right? So there you
exactly.
go.
Yep.
And then if they probably know what things you tend to do, right? Does he
Yeah.
know that
Oh,
he's like, oh
definitely.
yeah, that's totally you. You weren't trying to use artistic license here. This is
Yeah.
you being
Or I'll have like a paragraph that doesn't have a period. It just has commas. And he's
right,
like, let's break this up. And it
right.
doesn't even come to me. I'm like, oh, that makes sense.
Well, and yeah, me with commas, when I have my husband read something, I'll say, do you want me to teach you actually? And I'm like,
Yeah.
or I could just have you keep reading it for me.
Yeah.
You're like, yes, I should learn that, I
Yep.
suppose.
hmm
Yeah, yeah, that's so cool. All right, so tell me how the first book idea came about.
So first night came to me. My daughter was around 6, 7 weeks old, and my mom was visiting from Vermont, and she was rocking her. I think I was cooking, just trying to do anything not baby related because I was
Right.
just so burnt out.
Yes.
But my daughter would not settle, would not settle. And I came in the room and she would immediately just settle into my chest.
Yeah.
And my mom, being my adoptive mom, looked at me and she goes, she knows you. She knows your heartbeat. She knows your sound. She knows your smells. And she doesn't know me very well.
Right, right.
And I just was like, okay, let me sit here with her and you go do dinner. And actually, I'm like tearing up thinking about it because she was so little and they grow fast. But I
Oh,
was sitting there and I was just like, that first night that they're on your chest and
yes.
that connection that they have to their to their
Yeah,
biological mother. And I feel like my mom didn't experience that. I don't know what her experience exactly was
right.
adopting me, but I know that that connection to my daughter and to my son was just so special, and that most other moms that I've talked to remember that. Like, oh, they only wanted me. I had to baby wear them. They needed my smells. My
Yes.
husband would wear my shirt so they'd smell like me. And I just started writing and I just was like, I think on my phone in notes, just jotting things
Right.
down. And I showed it to my husband and he goes, that's really good.
Right.
Read it to your kids. And I would talk and speak to my children. And then I found an artist and then I brought my dad in it because I wasn't super sure of everything. And he
Right.
said, you got something. And it just became first night. And it was ended in this like really beautiful way of just they grow so quickly. And so having that rounded amount where your heartbeats are two and for so long that they're one and just it means so much to me and to my kids and I dedicated it to them and
Course. Oh, that's so beautiful. And those memories, and so what a beautiful way for a parent to take and read this book first night to their child and say, let's talk about, how we connect because of this. And
yeah.
so just connecting with your child through this book and they don't remember, first night, but
Oh no.
you do. You do.
Yeah.
And so you can share those beautiful, precious memories and what they love. Like my 4-year-old
Yes.
loves to see pictures of herself when she's a baby.
Yes. Oh my gosh. My
So,
son is starting to figure out that he was a baby because we have
right?
his photos and he'll say, "No, that's baby sister." I say, "No, he was a baby." And then we show
Yes.
dad and mom. And in the book, it talks about cravings. And my son will ask about those things now and say, "Do you
Yes.
want this?" And I'm saying, "Well, I did when I was pregnant with you. I wanted broccoli and now I can't stand it again." And with
Right.
my daughter, I wanted quinoa, which was super random, but then
Huh.
I really wanted red sour gummies. And so it translates. It's really fun to talk about those things and have those connections.
Yes. So that's such a beautiful thing that any parent could take this and, build on these connections and say, oh, when I was pregnant with you, or when you were a baby and I was first holding you, and such
Mm-hmm.
fun, like memories. That's a beautiful way to connect.
Yeah, and it's silly and it's fun and it's something that you can also, I feel, when my kids are older and they're maybe going through, if they want to have children themselves, being
Right.
able to talk to them about my experience with it and share that knowledge. And that's something I think I really missed because of my adoption was
Right.
I couldn't just text my mom and say, "Hey, how did you handle morning sickness?" And
Right.
luckily, I had amazing doulas, but it's something
Beautiful.
I really wanted to share and have other moms to be able to share that with their children.
That's great. I love that. That's so beautiful. So tell me about the next book because I just loved it. Like my imagination, I can totally see it. So tell us about Boat in the Kitchen.
A Boat in the Kitchen was written maybe a few months after first night, and
Okay.
I was up. My son had gone to bed, and I was in my kitchen cleaning, like doing dishes, like most moms do. We're in
Yes.
silence. It's our happy point. And there was a boat in the kitchen. It was a little tiny red tugboat from my son's bath time that he had brought out, and it was in a puddle of water. And I thought to myself, I'm like, what does he see? What's going through his mind? Is there a boat on the ocean that he's just like riding waves through our
Right.
kitchen? And I said, well, I see this little toy boat. How magical is everything through his eyes? Is this
Right.
world? And I started picking up the rest of their toys from playing, and I see a tiny little cow, this little toy. Most parents have it from a little barn
Right.
toy, and it's sitting in a laundry basket. And I'm like, can you imagine this huge cow sitting there with socks hanging off his ears,
So cute.
mooing in a huge hamper of clothes, and how funny that must be to a kid?
Right.
And I just started jotting things down, and I have this piece of paper that things are just going diagonal. I had it on my kitchen island, and every time I'd see something, I would just jot it down, and it just took it and I typed it into my phone when I got back in bed, and I shot it over to my dad and my husband via text and was like, "What do you
Nice.
guys think?" And it just, this one went through so many different changes where we moved things around, and we wanted, our son was really only one playing at the time because my daughter
Right.
was younger. So we had a lot of little boy toys. And I was like, how can we bring in every child? Like,
Yes.
there's the children interested in space. And so
Right.
a rocket ship is the super cool thing. And my son was a dinosaur kid. So the dinosaur in the pantry was his big show. He sees the Cheerios that they're holding and
Yes.
all of the imagery. You can point so many little things out that your kids can just draw to, like, oh, there's bananas. I love bananas. And it was just,
Yes.
it's their imagination. And I loved reading Brown Bear to my son, and it was such a
Yes.
sweet book. And when I was writing Boat in the Kitchen, I said, that's so beautiful. It comes full circle where it's a teacher and she sees all
Yes.
these children in masks, and it's just, the real view that parents see, but then the kids see this world that is now we don't see anymore. And so I really wanted it to come full circle. So maybe when we're cleaning up at the end of the night, we can think back and say, oh, when we were playing tea party with a little tiara, we were princesses, we were kings, we
Yes.
were princes, we did all of this. Our dogs were royal, hounds that had little capes on, and just
Absolutely.
run with it and connect with our children on that level and just try, getting and tapping into that imagination that we had when we were children.
That's so beautiful. I just love it. I love that. Like, what a perfect connection. What is my
Yeah.
child thinking? What is this like for them? And then also, do you know what I love? Like, so you referenced in the beginning when you were just so tired and you were so spent.
Mm,
And isn't that us after our kids do go to bed? When our
yes.
playing children go to bed. We're so tired. But how much better if you smile and pick up the octopus on the stairs and just think, oh,
Hmm.
what did they picture that like? And just a moment, even just for a moment, because
Hmm.
generally we're mothers because we want to be and find this joy and find these little moments that when we're exhausted and then even still, because I think we can connect with our children even when they're not there, like you were saying, and then it will help
Hmm.
our interactions with them later. I do, like, sometimes I have to remind myself, okay, play with my child today
Hmm.
because I'm doing my chores, I'm doing my work, I'm doing these different things, and sometimes I forget to play with them because I'm like, no, you go do your thing. And so
Hmm.
I think this is so beautiful that I do read to my child because I remember how important that is, but it brings both the reading and then the play of the importance of that and the connection with the child. I think the book is just so much fun.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I've had so much fun reading to my daughter, and we moo like a cow.
So
We
cute.
have all the fun, and we'll talk about other toys that they have that we see,
Yes.
right there. We'll create little parades with different cars and monster trucks, and it's
Yes.
it's so much fun. And it is a reminder to moms, and that's something that I think we sometimes need is we need a little reminder to
Yes.
say, okay, let's be present in this moment because there's so many things on our to-do lists and it just keeps getting added and added and added. And so
Yes.
taking a
So
moment to just
much.
be like, okay, did this little for such a small
Right? It
time.
feels so overwhelming
Let's
in the moment, but like you said,
it
that
does.
the moments of the baby on the chest, oh, those are
Hmm.
long gone for me. My youngest is
They
4,
are.
right?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, they want their own space. They want their
Yep.
pillows. They want their dinosaur stuffed
Yep.
animals, and they want to kiss goodnight. And it's you don't
Yes.
get it back. And so just stepping back
Yes.
and just being in that moment, also not being on your phone. It's just being able to
Yes.
step back and just close your eyes and remember it, and be a dinosaur in the in the
Yes, just
picture.
take the time to be a dinosaur and don't care about any of that.
Yep,
What does
roar
the
like a
dinosaur really
dinosaur.
like? Yes, I love it. Oh,
Exactly.
I love it, Sasha. Oh, so, and I love, Sasha, that your book, it's simple language. It's so perfect for these young kids because sometimes some of my picture books that I just love and I adore, I I like summarize little bits because even my 4-year-old can't handle to sit here and listen to some of the lengthy picture books that again I adore, but
Hmm.
you know. So I love the brief language that it's our imagination, and then the brief language that we're getting the words for the kids and vocabulary that they can be building on. That this is their world, right?
Hmm.
And then First Night definitely has more words and more vocabulary, but it's not overly wordy. It's
Yeah.
again, vocabulary to connect and
Hmm.
make conversation. So
Yeah, and I tried to do where a boat in the kitchen was simple and it allowed parents to elaborate if that was something their child
yes,
connected with, where
if
there
you
is so
want
much
it to go.
imagery in each page, so much
Yes.
color, and the artist Lola really just she brings everything to life. Me and her have such a phenomenal relationship. I'll write down, I'll have the book written out, and then I'll sketch each individual picture the way I see it in my head,
Right.
and I'll send her this huge picture of the layout, and then she just brings it to life, and it's
Adds little
amazing.
bits here and there that
And it's something I enjoyed. So I loved
yes,
books when I was little, but I know that my mom has books that she loved that the
yes.
illustrations were just beautiful. And it's something that we could both connect with and that we could see on paper. And
Oh, bringing grandma in. Yes.
oh, yes, definitely.
That's so wonderful. Yeah. So, yeah, I've talked to artists before and authors like at the same time where they talked, and one of them were like, I didn't even realize that, like about you creating that and why.
Yeah,
So it's so fun to hear about
super.
your illustrator and the experience with her. So yeah, like when we were talking about vocabulary, it actually made me think, that you were saying that the person reading can bring more to it. You've got the simple wording, but then they can bring more. There's a book, I was listening to my husband read it to the kids, and actually it's Goodnight Gorilla. There's, like
Mhm.
those are the
Yeah,
only
I think my son has that.
right. But then it was so funny because I have it, and I'm narrating and we talk about different things. And then I was listening to him read it to the kids, and it was a whole different story. The same pictures, and it was a whole different story. And I was like, "Oh yeah, is that what it does?" Like it was funny because I was teasing him, and he said, "Oh yeah, what does it do for you?" And so, but yeah, that there's that freedom for
There
the
is.
reader. with the child to interact and bring little bits into it with this beautiful pictures that you have that they
Yeah,
can
that
add so
actually
much to the
happened to
story.
me recently. My mother-in-law was reading As Quick as a Cricket to my
Uh-huh.
kids, which was a book I had read to me. And she was
Right.
just reading it page to page, and it's beautiful. And my mom, when she reads it, she goes, I'm as loud as a lion. And she makes these huge
Right.
gestures. And it's just, there's a different life with it. And it does
Yes.
change depending on who's reading it, who's the audience, if
Yes.
your audience can sit still for it.
Right.
Or if
Right.
you're just going to flip through and look at the pictures. I mean, sometimes that's all our kids have time for. There's times my
Yeah.
daughter will flip it to a page and she'll want 10 books in a minute, and we're
Yeah.
just glimpsing and reading and
It's, yeah, like you were saying,
taking it
adapted
slow.
to the reader and to the listener, the child, right? So
Yeah.
that's so great. So, Sasha, tell me what's next. You've got more ideas, right? And more coming out.
Yes. So my adoption was open. And so I knew once I came out with First Day that I really wanted to do an adoption book. But I personally am not an adoptive parent. So this took many tries. My mom was an adoption agent as well after she adopted me. So I have a lot of connections in the adoption world. I have friends. I feel like everyone knows someone who's connected with adoption. And so we have the book First Day, an adoption story, which I have done my best to make it as open as possible, where it allows everyone to tell their own story. So it actually
Right.
allows for
Oh,
people
that's
to
neat.
write in their own story and write in their own day that they became a family. And I really, I wanted to do it justice. So I didn't have my own personal experience, and I wanted to be able to take it and really have something that I could share with everyone I knew who was adopted. And I actually ran it by my birth parents, and they're thrilled and they're very proud of me. And so that was just kind of cherry on top.
That's so cool. I love it. And then one more coming up as well, right?
Yes, so we have Dust Bunnies book, which is very similar to Boat in the Kitchen, and it's called Dust Bunnies Aren't Bad, Just a Little Unclean.
Right.
And I have a little picture of the title page actually. It's
Oh,
my
cute.
same artist who I absolutely love, and Lola Svetlova, and it came to me as well at night, just like A Boat in the Kitchen. And I was sitting in bed and I was thinking, A Boat in the Kitchen was a great idea, but I don't know if I'll ever have another one. And I
Right.
started thinking, I have to clean the house. Oh, my friends, they keep their house cleaner. And I'm like, dust bunnies. Dust bunnies are a universal thing in every single parent's house and everyone's house. And I'm like, what if they're these little characters? What if they're these little mischief making
Right.
hooligans who live in the corners and the drapes in our laundry room,
So
and they just
fun.
make a mischief? And so we just started, thinking about it. And I sent my husband the idea, and he thought it was weird and hilarious.
And I love that. I love weird and
And
hilarious.
and it was perfect, and we just ran with it, and it's so much fun, and I'm so excited for it to come out. And my son loves it. He thinks it's awesome. And he now tells me when there's dust bunnies, because we'll be sweeping, and he'll say, dust bunnies, mom. And I'm like, yeah, they're making mischief. And we'll use them too to be able to connect with him, and he can sweep up the dust bunnies in his area and his toys. And it's a lot of fun, and we try finding them. And
And then you have
it's
another
another
connection
thing to
item with
just
it,
pull on
right?
imagination. Yes.
So
And we
let's see
just,
that. You have the dust bunny there.
oh, yes, we do. Our little,
That's so
little
fun.
dust bunny. And he has his little, they're also responsible for the one sock going missing. So they're mischief makers.
That's so great. I love it. And
But
like whether it's like, so we have so many of like the plush. Actually, my kids decorated my bookshelf just
yes.
recently with a lot of them are Cole's plush or whatever, but the that go along with the stories. But you don't even, those are great to have. But even if you
Yeah.
don't, you can get a different item and have it pretend to be whatever, and
Mhm.
making those connections with the book that way by adding a tangible something. That's really cool. I love it.
Yeah, I had tried so hard to find a visual for a dust bunny, and I went on Pinterest and I was like, did anyone else have this idea to
Right?
create a dust bunny? And they were scary. I'm like, no, they're fun. They're these
No.
little tiny critters. They're all over the place.
Yes.
And really the theme of the book is that just because you have dust in your house, just because there's a mess, just because you maybe forgot to sweep over in that corner, it's okay. Take the
Right.
time with your kids. Remember, you're playing with them. You're they're they only get one childhood. And
Right.
so The dust bunnies can wait. They're hanging out in your laundry room, hanging out in your laundry pan. They're chilling. They it's totally fine if the dust bunnies
Awesome.
are there. And
That's
so
great.
I wanted that as something that I connect with other moms. And I've shown it to a few of my mom friends, and they're like, this is like a reminder to say your house does not need to be spotless. It doesn't need to look like you haven't lived there.
Right. But have the fun, have the connections with
Yeah,
the kids. And
have the
I
fun.
like that it brings connections with other moms because so
Yeah,
often we're hard on ourselves, right? We
we
just
are.
think that we're the only ones with dust bunnies laying around.
Yeah.
But do you know what? We're not. So even if
Yeah,
there
everyone
are,
has boats in their kitchen. Everyone has
right?
dust bunnies
Yes.
in the
Right.
corner. It
Right.
is completely okay. Your kids are, no one's going to look at your baseboards.
Connections everywhere. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it helps us to remember to, give ourselves some grace.
Yeah. Because I, as a child, do not remember dust bunnies. I
Yeah.
remember playing and jumping
Yes,
around and,
absolutely. You
going
remember
for
the
walks
important
to the
things.
park. And
Right.
that's what our kids will remember. And
Absolutely.
reading and reading to
Absolutely.
us.
Yes, absolutely. They'll remember the reading, and that will have a big impact on if they enjoy
It
reading
will.
themselves, for sure.
Yeah, they have my kids both have bookshelves and they just love sitting in their big rocker, and it's just so much fun to have those
Oh,
moments because
perfect.
they're so special. And sometimes those are the only ones you get once they get older is, hey, can we read a book and then I'm gonna go to bed? Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yes. Yes.
Let's read a book together. Let's hang out.
Yes. Oh, that's so wonderful. So, Sasha, talking about reading books to children, what's one of your favorites that, besides your own brilliant work, that you would like to recommend for the audience?
um if you give a mouse a cookie,
Yeah.
that has been one of my favorites to read to my son. We have the stuffed animal.
Right.
Um, I just think that is such a sweet book, and it's so funny because I can relate that back to my son on so many occasions.
Right.
Where if you give an inch, they take a mile. Toddlers are
Like
infamous for
at
that.
bedtime,
But
especially.
yes, and it's such a funny analogy. And sometimes that's how I'd get him into bed was that book. Is I'd say, okay, we can read the mouse, and he's okay, give mouse a cookie, and then we could read something else that would maybe wind him down a little bit more. But
Nice.
he loved looking at it and seeing the cookie, and of course that would instigate him asking for one. But I
That's
thought that was
awesome.
just the cutest thing in the world. But that's probably been my favorite one more recently to be able to read to him.
Oh, yes. And it's so great. I love it. It's my son in kindergarten, they would have instead of dressing up on Halloween for I don't know, traditional costumes because they couldn't celebrate certain holidays at their school. They would on Halloween they would dress like a book character. And so they'd still get to dress up. And so my son was the mouse from If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. And we gave a
Oh,
little cardboard cookie. So then all year long, every time like that book or one of the other similar ones in the series came up, they'd be like, it's Cody. So,
that's so sweet. I love that. That's like so perfect for
right.
for that age group. It is such like a fun book, and we do have like the Christmas one that we bring out, and
Yes.
then it just stays on the shelf, and we just keep it year
Yes.
round. That's the one thing is books. They stick around all the time.
Yeah. Well, I love so many different connections. I love that we've talked about, connecting with the kids and then connecting with play and then the memories and then with food. I think this is just wonderful. And then also with other moms, there are so many connections to be had. So thank you for being here today, Sasha, with sharing all the connections with picture books. And then thank you for writing for children because this is such an impact to have on children to really ignite their imagination and have fun with it.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Bye bye.
Bye.